Hello, friend. Welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter and I'm joined with Connor.
Hey guys.
We are going to talk about Mr. Robot Season 2, Episode 8. It's called EPS 2.6 underscore successor dot P12. We don't know what
No
that
idea.
extension is now. Okay, full spoilers for the episode as always. I want to point out that not the first line, but one of the first lines of this episode is Darlene saying, or one of the other ones saying to Darlene, we were expecting Elliot, and she's like, nah, it's just me or whatever. And I'm like, huh, that's the whole
Really
episode.
sums up the episode, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
like,
I have to say, it
very
was
good.
a ballsy move avoiding Elliot entirely after last week.
A little bit. I was expecting him to walk in at the end,
Yeah, but
but
nothing at all.
there was a moment. There was actually a moment in the middle when I thought he was about to walk in, but it wasn't him that walked in. And you'll know, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I was expecting like a moment at the end when he sort of walks in and it was going to be like this thing, but obviously it didn't happen. And we focused entirely on Darlene and F Society and also a bit of Angela and a bit of Dom. One thing I want to point out about the timeline here is this episode is set in the middle of the last episode,
Yeah.
because in the last episode Dom mentioned something about it on July 4th the next day, and then later on when we see the balls from the bull on TV drop through the thing, that was July 7th.
Yeah.
And there was also a line about the woman from this episode not showing up to a meeting, and it's because she'd
Yeah.
already been killed.
Yeah.
So that didn't click right away. It was only just because when they mentioned it was July 4th, I'm like, oh yeah, someone said last episode it was July 4th tomorrow. But then I'd
Mm.
forgotten that it skipped time ahead, like by the time it finished. So that's interesting. First of all,
Yeah,
just
it all works out because last week was like entirely Elliot,
yeah, yeah,
and then it's just the two sides at the same time, basically.
yeah. So yeah, so we focus on Darlene and F Society, and they make a new video. They listen to this FBI conference call. Leak all this information about the FBI surveying people illegally and so on. Gets the FBI in a lot of trouble, and then the woman whose house they are living in for the time being just saunters in the front door, and oh shit, we have to deal with this now. And Joanna's still the scariest character on the show, but Darlene gave it a good run for her money.
She's getting up there, isn't she?
She gave it a bloody good go in that scene.
Mm.
Really bloody good go. But it became clear what she was going to do when she started talking about her laughing. You know, with the women laughing at the hearing for E Corp back in like the 90s when her dad's case was all
It
going
was
on.
as soon as she brought up her being a kid and E-Corp and that stuff, it was like, this is not going according to everyone else's plan.
No, this was about to go very badly. I'll admit, I'd forgotten the woman had a heart condition because that was brought up, I think, in the first episode way back when.
Yeah, I'd forgotten as well.
I'd forgotten, and I was like, wait, did she just did the spark knock her out, and that's why she's dead because she's in the pool and she's not conscious to.
Well, I mean, you see people with tasers and stuff where they spasm about a bit and they lose control for a few seconds,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that could be enough to drown you anyway, to be honest.
yeah. But you know, that's what I was sort of like thinking. Right, how exactly did this kill her? But then they meant, oh, she got a heart condition. Oh, right, fair enough. It was just Zolt, and she's gone because her
Gone.
heart can't take it. So fair play. That's me not remembering a detail from episode one.
Yeah,
Not the show being sloppy with its
no, it was there the whole time.
methods of death. Um, all that was great stuff because we open with that flashback with Mobley and Trenton when they first meet and they realise that they're both there to see Elliot, or
Yeah,
ends up being Darlene, but
and
starts
I
with,
like the reference the first scene of the first episode as well.
yeah, I like that too. It was the speech that Elliot says to us at the start of the first episode.
Yeah, and then just before that, they talk about Ron's coffee shop as well. Like that's where they are, and they talk about the one with the really fast Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Like, that's where Elliot is at the start of the first episode, isn't it?
Yeah, that's that first scene.
Yeah, so no, it was a lot of fun like connective tidbits in that opening scene, and I thought it did a good job of following all these characters because Mobley's like sort of increasing paranoia as the episode was going on was really good, and when he goes home when they leave after they find out that Darlene's like air quotes accidentally killed the woman, and he's like getting the pizza guy to like go in and check the house, and
Yeah.
and we see Trenton at her family's house, and she hears a noise and looks outside, and you get this sense that they just don't feel safe.
Oh my God, the tension at that point, the music's like ramping up, and
Yeah,
oh, it's so good.
yeah, and then it's kind of a weird feeling of relief when you realize, oh, it's just the FBI, because you're kind of thinking worst case scenario, you're thinking Dark Army, you're thinking what happened to Romero is going to happen to them. But at the same time, when Dom walks in the room and sits down in front of him, I'll be like, oh god, maybe this is the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Like, can he really take her?
Yeah. And we find the origin of his hacker name,
I like it.
because he was a fan of a DJ called Mobley who had no fans basically but him.
Yeah. Ah, that's great. I think it's a real testament to this show, like how far this group of characters have come. Because I didn't realize how much you like cared about these particular characters, the F Society group as much, until you have an episode without Elliot at all, and it doesn't suffer one bit.
Yeah. I agree. I'm not going to say I didn't miss him because he's Elliot, but
Sure, he's still our lead character, and he's what we're kind of there for. But the show as a whole didn't suffer from taking a break from it.
well, no, I'm always for episodes of shows where they actually focus on different characters
Yeah.
for good storytelling reasons, not just randomly. But
And as long as the characters are compelling enough.
sometimes I even like it when they do that, and it's a new character that you've never met before. That's been done very well in some shows.
Yeah.
So yes, so Dom puts it all out on the table, trying to scare him, but partly because of what they leaked from the FBI conversation, they're under a lot of pressure not to be doing anything off book, like to obeying the rules, and they're technically holding him without any, like literally all she has on him is that this flyer, the hacker name, and like him making this website on Angel Fire, which by the way I've not heard the name Angel Fire in a long ass time.
It's been a while.
So he has to leave, and he warns Trenton, tells it to meet him at the coffee shop, and then doesn't show up.
See, it feels like a honeypot trap there. Like maybe the FBI got something and they're watching her. I don't know.
Really,
I feel like maybe Dom went off book anyway, and she followed him, and she's watched the setup.
okay. Well, that's different from what you just said. Or at least I interpreted that differently. So what are you saying? Are you saying he didn't go in because he thought he was being followed, or he didn't go in because he thought she was being followed? Which one?
Neither. I think that I think that
That's what you just said.
No. As in, he set it up, but then she confronts him, and then she does something to him. Maybe ties him up. I don't know. She could go really off book, and then she goes and stakes out the lookout to see what she does.
So are you saying Dom that's like had more interaction with him?
Yeah, that we didn't see.
Okay.
Because he's 2 hours late, right? Is
Right.
what we see.
Right. Okay.
So I think she's gone and done something there.
Okay. Right. We got to the bottom of that theory then.
We did.
Took me 5 minutes. But we
It's
got
early,
there.
okay?
You could be right. Admittedly, 2 hours could just mean he just never showed up, and she's just been sitting there for 2 hours. Like the time difference may not actually be
Could be.
relevant in and of itself. I'm not sure. I would expect that something. My instinct is that something happened to him. Whether it was Dark Army, whether it was the FBI grabbing him for another reason, Dom doing something off book. I'm not sure. I'm more inclined to think the Dark Army because of how the episode ends.
That's fair.
Because the episode ends, so after Darlene and what's his face, Cisco, take care of the body at the the dog pound, which I'd forgotten about it until they showed up again. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this from last season. Yeah.
But then it was that perfect metaphor where he was like, oh, all the dogs ended up back here anyway. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like saying everything you did was just pointless.
Yeah. So they get rid of the body. They go back to his place to spend the night because he says, oh, you can't be alone tonight, blah, 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 blah. And he's surveying her in her sleep. He's got the webcam pointed at her with a camera, and he's messaging the Dark Army, and it's in Chinese. We get subtitles. Whether or not Darlene can read it, I'm not sure. Maybe she doesn't need to, because she sees surveillance of herself and Chinese writing. That's enough maybe for her to be suspicious. Like,
Quite possibly. But then I wouldn't put it past her to have
I
the
wouldn't
ability.
either. I wouldn't either. It's just never came up if she can.
No, it's a sort of skill I can see her having, given that she's always been the one with the contact to the Dark Army.
Maybe. But it specifically said we get subtitles, of course. You know, I've got her here now, and I think it was another line. I can't remember, but
They talk about the server thing for the FBI.
so Darlene's in a bit of a pickle.
And then she smacks him with a baseball bat.
She smacks him with a baseball bat, and that's how we end the episode. I was expecting Elliot this whole time. I was expecting a moment at the end where Elliot comes swooping in. So when it cut to the credit, I was genuinely a little bit surprised.
Which is why I think it was so ballsy, because you spend the whole episode expecting it,
True.
and then it doesn't give it you, so it's like, interesting.
Which makes me think next episode we're going to flip back over to Elliot at the start, and he will come into whatever the fallout is from this.
Yeah, I think this is where they converge now.
Yeah, we will learn what happened after this from Elliot's point of view. It wouldn't even surprise me if the timeline somewhat overlaps again and we start, like, if this. Well, no, it can't, because the last episode ended the latest in the timeline, so probably not. But you know, like, I just.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was that. One last thing I want to point out about Darlene. Well, a couple of things I want to point out, just from a character perspective. The way she spoke about not feeling anything, or not feeling bad on the train afterwards. I do think, like, part of the inner conflict that might happen from this is if Elliot finds out in his reaction to it, because Elliot's got a very strong moral code, which is why I think even if, now admittedly, I still maybe suspect that he had something to do with Romero's death. I do think it's more likely to be Dark Army. I think there's still a possibility that it's Mr. Robot, rather than Elliot himself. But let's assume for a second it wasn't him. I'm inclined to almost think that maybe Mr. Robot, or Elliot, regardless if he's himself or Mr. Robot, still has that, like, sure, when he's Mr. Robot, he is a lot more harsh, and he will cross the line a much further than he would as himself. But I'm inclined to think that maybe that strict moral code somewhere along the line might still be in place.
Yeah, I can see that. Just a question on the timeline there. You're talking about Romero. When he was killed, had Elliot had access to the website by that point?
Well, no, but we don't know how long he'd been dead. And we don't know how long Elliot had been in jail.
That's true, but
but even I'm not even suggesting that he did it himself by hand, but, like...
No, I was just wondering if he'd had access to the website already at that point. He could have bought a hitman.
I mean, yeah, he also had a phone, which, I mean, he'd have to be speaking code, I guess, but...
I'm sure it's been done before.
Admittedly, because of everything that's happened since, I'm less inclined to think that he had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But still a possibility. It's still out there. So I'm curious to see how that Elliot finding out about this and Darlene's lack of moral in this situation is I'm curious to see how that sets up against each other.
Yeah, that should be fun to watch, because obviously they have an odd relationship, to say the least. But there's always been like something between them, obviously, that even before we knew the relationship, there was always those two more together than anyone else of F Society.
Yeah. And the other thing with Darlene that I want to mention, the thing that will probably get her caught.
Go on.
The videotape that breaks and she takes her mask off on camera.
Yeah.
We don't see how they dispose of that. I'm inclined to suspect that whenever they wiped down the house and did whatever, that's exactly the sort of thing that might have been missed.
The only thing I can give them is it was a video cassette, right? They're very easy to destroy and get rid of.
They are. But I'm just assuming that maybe they may have missed it, because they left it to Trenton to go and take care of.
That's true. If they missed it entirely, then yeah. But if it's easy thing to destroy those.
It is, but like if it's still there, yeah, the tape's broken, but they can take the tape out and, you know,
yeah.
If you've got the equipment to do it, you can still see what's on it.
Yeah, just Put it in some fire. That's your trick for these things. Just melt the tape entirely. Then it's fucked.
Yeah, which they may have done, but this also was right before all the shit went down with the women coming
Yeah.
home.
So maybe they forgot.
So like, in all that like commotion, I could completely buy that they missed
No,
that.
I get it. I get it.
So,
Presumably, the reason they use VHS in the first place is because it's so easy to destroy them.
yeah,
But I can see how they could have missed it in this situation.
yeah. So that's Darlene and F Society. Jump over to Angela, who was on a date on the 4th of July with some random dude who then later turns out to be someone from the FBI who was trying to get information out of her or some such. And there's not a whole lot of progression from her, but we do have a couple of really interesting scenes. One is where she runs into a friend of her dad's who is very aggressive with her.
It's one way of putting it.
Well, I mean, yeah. Very hostile because of where she works now. And then she turns around, and it's almost like she's tried to flip tables with people repeatedly, both before and after this, because obviously that scene from last week where she was in the meeting and tried to, get the information on the case from years ago.
Yeah, and we saw her try and play Philip a few weeks ago.
And they've both failed miserably. I wonder, because this was set before that scene from last week, I wonder if her picking on an easy target like this
was some false confidence.
Yeah, some false confidence to do it, because she turns around and she's like, "What are you, a plumber?" Now, first of all, a plumber is actually a fairly well-paying job.
They are, but it's not six figures.
It's not six figures, but a plumber is it's a trained skill, so it tends to actually pay better than a lot of jobs. It's something you have to actually train to do. But anyway, that sounds like I'm defending someone. I don't actually know any plumbers.
Me either, but it's a profession, isn't it? They tend to pay better.
But she turns around and look, oh, I've got a six-figure salary. I'm 27, and you're like, nearly 60, and you're still making what you made like 30 years ago.
I think the exact phrase is, "You literally clean shit for a living."
That was probably the pinnacle of our argument. Yes.
Yeah. It's a good argument, to be fair, if you're going to go for it.
True. I mean, had he been quick on his feet, he might have hit back. Well, no, that's really only one element of the job. I mean, in actual fact, I also fix showers, which have nothing to do with shit. The sink in the bathroom or the sink in the kitchen, nothing to do with shit.
You hope.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's had been called out to some weird houses in his time.
Yeah.
Honestly, folks, just think of your plumber. Don't shit in the sink. All right.
Yeah, it's good life advice right there.
And then the other scene is that she apparently has a thing for older men. And she just casually flirts with this old guy who mentions he's got a granddaughter.
Yeah, well, she brings up the granddaughter, doesn't she, as a joke, and he is like, well, yeah.
Yeah, but then she goes with it anyway, and that's the last we see of her. But I think ultimately most of her stuff was just showing how where she was in this at this space and time. She's right in the shitter. She looks like shit. She was drunk the moment we seen her. She
did a surprisingly decent karaoke performance.
She did. I like the way that intercut with them. With the F Society dealing with the situation at the time.
Yeah, it was good.
They were trying to hack the women's emails and stuff. I can't remember her name, which is why I keep calling her the women. But they're hacking her emails and they're trying to find
dirt on her. Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was a reasonable plan.
It was. Do you know what? For the first half of Darlene's conversation with her, I thought she was sticking to the plan, just intimidating her in her own way.
Yeah, but she was
a good cop, bad cop sort of thing, where she's like, they want to do this.
Yeah, but she was going to get to what the dirt was, and then flash it in her face and be like, "Look."
That's what I thought she was going to do until it got personal.
Yeah. Dear. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, there's a couple of scenes of Dom dealing with things outside of the. Because she interviews the guy from last season where Darlene got the gun. And so on. Again, a little connective tissue, but that was the gist of the whole thing. Solid episode.
Yeah, not one of the best, but still very good.
Yeah, solid. It was nice to. It was a weird time in the season to do it, but it was nice to focus on the other characters.
Yeah, definitely. And I think now that we've got that out of the way, no, well, not out of the way, but now that that's done, we can bring everything together and start moving towards the end game for the season, I think.
Because we do have 4 episodes left, 3 weeks of episodes because the last two are going to air together as a two-parter. Um,
3 weeks and then return to feeling empty for a year.
well, luckily the network fall season is starting soon after, but yes. Otherwise,
Yeah.
yes, feeling empty for a year. Hey, you never know. Westworld could fill this void.
Could it? Could it? Can anything fill this void?
It might. It may not be Mr. Robot, but it might fill the void. So there you go. Let us know what you think in the comments and stuff below. Thoughts, theories, and all that jazz. Like and subscribe helps us out a lot. Thanks very much for watching. We will see you next time.